What's going on, guys? Welcome back to NolanTCG, and we are back here today for another deck profile, and surprise, surprise, it's Dragonmaids again. So I was going to hold off on this list for a little bit to upload it, just to kind of let it breathe a bit, because we've been uploading a lot of Dragonmaid lists lately, because as you can tell, it's my deck of choice for the current format, and the previous format, and the previous format before that. Actually, no, the previous format before that I was probably more on, like, Prankid, I guess. Yeah, probably. I was on Prankid for a little bit, and then I switched to this, and I haven't looked back. I've been enjoying it a lot. We went away to another Wintermat tourney on the weekend to RC Cruise. We're gonna have a profile for them. I think it went up last Friday, actually. Go check that out. It was the Dino list from they placed first after Swiss, ended up coming in second place. They were ultimately who we lost to in Swiss in the last round of Swiss. Guy's super nice. His name's Khan. Nicest dude I've ever met at a Yu-Gi-Oh event. So definitely you want to check that profile out. Overall, in Swiss, we ended up going X1, so we lost in the final round. I believe it was 4 rounds of Swiss and then a top 8 cut. I think we were the only person, I was the only person undefeated going into, or the only person at XO after after the first 3 rounds of Swiss. Everyone else had draws and stuff. So I felt good to kind of like be sitting at the top there, going into that final round with Dragonmaids. It's never something I ever expected the deck to do, but overall, I found that this list is super consistent. It doesn't lose to a lot of hand traps, which is the reason why I've made these choices. And overall, we ended up walking away. We came in 3rd place after Swiss, and then in 3rd place in top 8. So, can't complain a lot. Came away with the Hulk Field Center. We got a bunch of OTS support as well. Ended up with the Ulti Arm Dragon. So, can't complain with that. And yeah, we'll get into a bit of a profile for this one. But as always, before we do get started, please remember to drop down below and hit that subscribe button if you are new here, because we are always happy to have new people on the channel. And let's get on into it. Before we do get into this bit of the profile, though, I will go through my matchups, I guess. Round 1, I played against Gravekeeper. Rather surprisingly, I managed to out a Necro Valley Dragoon at one point, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And we got there in the end. That was good. Then round 2, I played against ABC. Of course, like, bounce normal summon against that deck is really strong, so, yeah, it was just a good matchup for this deck. Round 3 was against, it was like a mishmash, like Mech Knight, Dragoon, what was the 3rd engine? I can't quite remember, sorry, off the top of my head. Overall, that was a good grind game, good back and forth. I ended up pulling through in, game 3 for that one. Overall, just like bouncing, avoiding columns, just kind of eventually ground out the win. And then, yeah, in the final, it was 4th round was Dinosaurs. We lost the Dinosaurs because it is this deck's worst matchup. Like, Dinosaurs are really, really tough. If you are a big Dragonmaid player and you know how you beat Dinos, comment that down below, because it is my biggest struggle with this deck is Dinosaurs. Whenever I see it, I'm like, this is gonna be fun. Then in the finals, first round of the finals was Medolce. Great match. Again, bounce normal summon was rough for them. The double normal summon, but double bounce is still good. I think there can only be 1 was flipped in that match from my opponent. I managed to just grind it out with the fusions, just like constantly punching in face, and he just kind of like bricked, found it a bit too cloggy to get through. Then in the top 4, I ended up playing against Jake from Cowboy for Game. He was playing Invoke like always. Game 1 was excellent. I opened up very well and just kind of played through that game. Game 2 and 3 was where this deck fell apart. I had three bad hands all tournament. It was round 1, game 1, game 2 and 3 in top 4. And that's ultimately where I come apart. But we'll start off with the profile for this one. It is, of course, as always, 3 copies of Chamber Dragonmaid. Obvious, searches everything in the deck, or searches all your spell cards. Gets you through full combo. Just overall good card. It's worth the price. Buy this deck. It's great. Then we've got 3 copies of Parlor, Foolish Burial. I'm sure if you're new here, I'll try and explain them a little, but we've been on a lot of these profiles, so we'll go a bit kind of fast. We've got Kitchen Dragonmaid, add discard, Nurse for the Reborn. Then we play 3 of the big dragons. We've got 1 Law Power to try and turn off things that can be targeted, of course. Then we've got 1 copy of the Tinnick, and the 1 copy of the Urns. So we've got the Honest, and then we've got the quick effect summon from hand. Then for the next part, we chose to not play the black metal package. I found as though the black metal package, yes, you could make much better end boards, but it rendered your deck susceptible to a lot of hand traps that are running around in the format. Droll all of a sudden becomes a very good card against you if you're playing that combo. So I decided to go with Noctovision. So the 3 copies of Noctovision almost always guaranteed, well, they obviously did, they always guaranteed a copy of Hieratic Seal whenever they were in hand. It rarely come up that I got drolled in the tournament. Like, I think I got drolled once with a Nocto in hand, and I was like, I guess I just don't draw a card. It's fine. Like, I wasn't not stressed at all. This card helps you play through so much stuff. Just the fact that it's just a free summon, gets you a draw. That draw can be anything. It's fine. Then we go into our hand trap lineup. 3 copies of Gamma. Of course, the fact that everything bounces, Gamma's like always live in your deck, so you're not super stressed out. Then we've got, of course, the 1 driver to go with that. 3 copies of Ash Blossom, just because I felt as though it's the most versatile hand trap at the moment in the format. Overall, like, it was a very good card. Like, I drew Ash quite a lot off the Nocto, which I cannot complain about. The deck did very well for the weekend. Then we've got 2 copies of Hospitality. I felt as though 2's correct, because you can only activate once per turn. Like, they're hard once per turns. But they're not a super hard once per turn. If the activation is negated of a Hospitality, you can activate the second Hospitality if you have them both in hand. So don't stress too much. It is like the only card in the deck that you can do that with. So if you activate a Hospitality, because it can be belled, if your opponent bells the Hospitality, you can still go through with another Hospitality. So that is something you can keep in mind. I think there is only once all tournament where I felt as though I needed a 3rd Hospitality, but I still would not have put it in the deck. Then after that, we've got 2 copies of the Dragonmaid's Changeover. At this tournament, I felt as though I could have played 1. But at my locals, where everyone knows what Dragonmaid is, 2 copies of Dragonmaid Changeover is correct. If it gets crowed, your life becomes a lot more difficult. So just the fact that playing 2 is the way to go once you kind of are playing it a lot. If you're at a locals where no one knows what this deck does, you can get away with playing 1 copy of this for as long as you want. Until they start to learn, then you play the 2 Changeover. I sided out the 1 copy quite a lot, just because I was like, yep, my opponent doesn't fully know what this deck does, so we can just take out a copy of Changeover, because I'm probably not going to get crowed. At least on the Changeover, they'd crow other things. Then we've got 3 copies of the World Legacy Guard Dragon combo, if you draw it. Of course, because we're not playing that Black Metal package, we're also not choosing to play the Almirage in the extra deck, which means that, like, Chamber plus this no longer becomes that full extended combo. But again, like I said earlier, that would tend to play into more hand traps. Like, you can get Nibiru'd when you do that. Oh, you can get Drolled, and then it kind of makes your life a bit tough because you can't get the Black Metal or the Red Eyes Darkness Metal during the combo. So the 3 copies of Guard Dragon, still great, but not as good as what they could have been if you were playing that. Then we go into 3 copies of Potter's Prosperity after that. Yes, the card's expensive, but the card's expensive for a reason. Like, it fixes hands. The only issue is I can never see power side cards whenever I activate this. It makes my life really bad. Where I'll be like, I'll have a hand that's all gas, and I'm like, yep, good to go. Activate the Prosperity. Just need to see a side deck card, and we don't. And instead of the game being a blowout, the game is stuck in a grind game. Then, of course, we are playing... This is the 40th card in the deck. It is 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster. You can switch this for anything you'd like. If you wanted to play a 3rd copy of Hospitality, that is always an option. You can play a 3rd of, like, a Tech Trap, or you can just play a different power card. I felt as though having, like, 1 kind of, like, blowout spell trap removal in the main deck was correct, so the 1 copies of Harpies is what stayed in. Then for the traps, we've got 3 copies of Dragonmaid's Tidying. This card is just amazing. Like, you get that bounce, you get the summon. Yes, they are a 1 effect per turn only, but you're not gonna complain about that when this card is just so free. Then we've got 3 copies of Ice Dragon's Prison. After that, again, a lot of decks in the format at the moment are like mono typing, so Ice Dragon's Prison is great. Stops Dragon Link, gets through like machine decks, everything. It's great. Then we've got 2 copies of Solemn Strike to round out the main deck. This is just the main like option kind of trap that I went with. You can of course change this to anything you'd like. Okay, next off we've got the extra deck, and of course it is 3 copies of Dragonmaid Shiu. Good card, Omni Negate. Also big attack over a lot of things. So card come in clutch, all tawny. Standby Phase Reborn surprisingly didn't happen a lot. Like, whenever I got to this, my opponent did everything that they could to try and stop me from getting to that standby phase activation. Be that through, like, Floodgate traps, or be it through, like, Necro Valleys and things like that. Maybe Mystic Mine. Card was just super powerful, or tawny. Then we come into the House Dragonmaid. In the top 8 against the Medolce deck, when I had there can only be one flipped, because he was main decking it, so I had that flipped on me in game 1. I just summoned the House Dragonmaid and was like, this has 3k, I'm just going to attack. So I had like House Dragonmaid with like 3 set cards, and it was just punch, 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 until we can figure out what we're going to do. Then for the links, we've got 3 copies of the Heraldic Seal of Heavenly Spheres. Card summons anything from deck, gets you that free pop, non-targeting pop, which is great. Then you get that free summon, typically for Nurse. You get those reborns, start steamrolling, hopefully you win game from there. Then we, of course, are playing 2 copies of Striker Dragon. If you do want to, you can cut one of these for Almirage to at least let you play the smaller version of that link package. I wouldn't recommend going with the one copy of, the copies of the Black Metal and the Red MD. We did test out with Lachlan from Cowboy for Game. He borrowed this deck and tried it out with 2 copies of Imperm, and then the 1 copy of the Black Metal and the 1 copy of Red Eyes Darkness Metal, playing the other package with the Almirage and the Crossroads. It did work for him. Like, granted, a lot of people kind of didn't know what the deck was going to do for him, so that was something. But he did play the deck very, very well. He did miss some interactions that I forgot to tell him about beforehand, and he ended up doing very well playing that. So that is something you can keep in mind if you do want to play that kind of variance. You just cut the Harpies and the 3 Noctos, and you can choose to do that instead. Then, of course, for the rest of the extra deck, we've got the Guard Dragons. So we've got the Pisty and the Elpie. Rarely do I use the Pisty. It's typically getting Prosped away. Then we've got the 1 copy of Boral Sword for when you want to push for game. Remember, Boral Sword under Prosp, not going to work. And then we've got 1 copy of Chaos Ruler to round out the extra deck. Okay, next off, we'll go through the side, because I do consider it like somewhat of a major event. Like, I did travel to it, so we are going to go through the side, because I did take it pretty seriously. We've got, of course, the Field Center. We did get a NolanTCG Field Center. I've had this for a while and never thought to show it on camera, but yeah, we got one of these. Good. The Field Center, of course, that we won, the Hulk one. Then we've got 3 copies of Lancia starting off the side deck. I felt as though it was just kind of versatile, expecting a lot of dinosaurs and stuff like that. Lancia is just kind of good against that. Against your worst matchup, you kind of want to have good stuff. Then we've got the Kaijus. So we're playing 1 copy of Godala and 2 copies of Gamma Seal. Surprisingly, no one played Bird Up at this event. The Bird Up players just didn't show up, and it was quite disappointing, because I was expecting to play some Bird Up and get a bit more interaction. At which point, I would probably consider playing 3 Godala. The reason why I only chose to play 1 Godala and 2 Gamma Seal is because outing the Godala itself is surprisingly difficult in this deck, because all of the big dragons have 27. Additionally, outing the main board, you can just normal summon Parla, Foolish the Big Wind, and then switch that way, as long as they don't have the spell card to protect their stuff from being destroyed by battle, or it's the spell of the trap, which not a lot of people play. I found as though, like, if you're a player and you play that, that's correct in Bird Up. It does stop this deck's primary way of outing you, and you do have to then go into the Wind Kaiju. We've got, of course, 3 copies of Droll after that for the rest of the side deck. Just a versatile hand trap, come in quite a lot. Then we've got 1 copy of the Kawaki Mirror Drago. I did side into this if I felt as though floodgating out the opponent off special summons after bouncing the normal would come up. I forgot to actually side this in at one point in the tourney. It was pretty bad. Then we've got 3 copies of the Forbidden Droplet, just to try and turn off board. You don't really mind about discarding because you play so many reborn spells. Then rounding out the extra, or the side, sorry, we've got 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone, just because more spell and trap removal felt as though it was good. But that wraps up here for the deck profile for this one, so I do apologize that we ran a little long. I really like to go in depth with my Dragonmaid list, so if you do enjoy it, of course, hit that subscribe button, because I love to talk Dragonmaids. And as always, I've been Ben from NolanTCG, and have a good afternoon, everybody.